There exists a silent engine, humming beneath the skin of reality, an unseen architecture that weaves the threads of your life like a cosmic loom, mechanical in its rhythm, yet cloaked in mystery. You feel it not with your hands, but with your intuition. It whispers through déjà vu. It echoes in the strange coincidences that seem too perfect to be chance. It moves behind the eyes of strangers and hides in the space between thoughts. And yet, most walk through life unaware that this hidden mechanism exists at all, much less that it exerts a quiet but absolute control over their choices, perceptions, and even destinies. To live unaware of it is to float down a river, believing you're swimming freely when in truth, the current was chosen for you long before you ever dipped your toes into the stream. It is not a single force, but a symphony of layered influences, cultural scripts written before you were born, patterns of perception inherited through ancestral fear and societal design, subtle energetic structures, and cosmic laws that govern from the shadows. You are not a passive character in this unfolding, but you are not entirely the author either, at least not until you see. The world presents itself as solid, objective, and fixed, but those who peer behind the curtain find something entirely different. They find that matter is mostly empty space, that time is not linear, and that consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain, but perhaps the projector through which the entire stage of reality is cast. They find that what we call reality may be a simulation, not necessarily in the cold, digital sense, but a metaphysical simulation, a feedback loop of thought, belief, energy, and manifestation. The hidden mechanism is not one machine, but many interlocking gears, psychological, spiritual, and vibrational, all synchronized to keep you asleep unless you decide to wake up. And yet, waking up is not a matter of will alone. It's an initiation, a pulling back of veils, a moment of stillness, so quiet, the false voices of the world finally go silent, and what remains is your raw, unfiltered, aware. That moment is rare, but it is always near. It waits in heartbreak. It waits in solitude, in awe, when you stare too long at the night sky and feel something ancient move inside you. The mechanism begins to flicker when you question the nature of time, when you wonder why suffering repeats, when you ask why your desires feel orchestrated rather than born. This mechanism is not inherently malicious, simply is. It has evolved over millennia, built by our thoughts, our agreements, our fears. It rewards predictability and punishes chaos. It seeks homeostasis, but your soul seeks evolution, disruption, transcendence. And this is the core conflict. The soul wants to break free, while the mechanism wants to keep you within its orbit. So it distracts, it seduces, it tempts with convenience, comfort, identity, and illusion. It offers 1,000 mirrors, none of which reflect who you truly are. But once you catch a glimpse of the hidden gears once, you see the clockwork behind your beliefs, habits, and assumptions. You can no longer pretend you're asleep. You may try, but something inside will gnaw at the edges of your normal life, whispering, "There's more, there's more, there's more." And that more is not out there. It's not in a guru's teaching, or a sacred text, or a secret society's revelation. It's in the shift of perception, the still point, the crack in the mask. The moment you realize that reality is not what happens to you, but what you interpret it to be, you begin to wonder, if I can see the script, can I rewrite it? If I can feel the boundaries, can I push them? And if I can find the source of the mechanism, can I escape it? This is not a story of conspiracy or control in the usual sense. This is about deeper forces, vibrational patterns, inherited thought forms, and psychic scaffolding that shapes your life long before you make what you think is a choice. It is about understanding the metaphysical mechanics of reality, not to fear them, but to navigate them with lucid awareness. In the chapters ahead, we will travel through the core truths that underpin this mechanism, explore the symbols that hint at its design, Uncover the ancient metaphors that concealed it in plain sight, and learn how to dissolve its grip through awareness, will, and alignment with the soul's deeper current. This is an unveiling, not of a monster in the dark, but of a mirror too bright to stare at for long. Now, the question remains, are you ready to truly see what you've always felt, but could never name? At the heart of the mechanism lies a paradoxy one that is both elegant and imprisoning, that you are simultaneously creator and captive, the architect of your perceptions, and yet bound by their architecture. This paradox is the first veil, and it is thick with centuries of sediment, cultural myths, collective traumas, dogmas posing as truth, and inherited identities that grow like vines around the core of your being. The mechanism is not merely external, it is woven into your nervous system, etched into your subconscious, and reinforced by every feedback loop of experience and expectation. To name its themes is not to reduce its mystery, but to begin to understand its rhythm, much like listening to the heartbeat of a dream. One of its central pulses is habitual perception, the tendency of the mind to form a reality from what it expects, not from what is. The mechanism thrives on predictability. Once your beliefs are installed, like code within the mind, reality begins to bend itself around those beliefs. You don't see the world as it is, you see it as you are. That is its brilliance and its trap. A person who believes they are unworthy will find reflections of unworthiness in every corner of their life. The world will oblige that belief, as though reality itself were conspiring to confirm your internal story. But in truth, it is not conspiring, it is reflecting. The mechanism is a mirror, and it is perfectly obedient. Another theme pulses deeper emotional inertia. The mechanism does not simply run on thoughts, but on energy. The energy of suppressed emotion, of unresolved trauma, of subconscious programming. These emotional signatures become signatures of frequency, and frequency is everything. You could think of this mechanism not just as a script, but as a tuning fork. Whatever emotional key you vibrate in, the world responds in kind. Anger draws more friction. Guilt invites self-sabotage. Fear breeds limitation. Joy, gratitude, love, these begin to loosen the mechanism's grip because they raise the frequency of the script itself. They bring anomalies, glitches, moments that do not conform to the past. They are the seeds of your escape. Beneath both thought and emotion, there lies identification, the master key of the mechanism. The identities you carry act like gravitational centers. They determine what you can or cannot do, what you allow yourself to want, and what you unconsciously reject. You might say, I am this kind of person, and with that single declaration, you collapse a field of infinite possibilities into one narrow lane. The mechanism sharpens that lane with rules, social conditioning, ancestral patterns, and media-fed archetypes. It rewards you for staying within it, and punishes deviation with shame, isolation, or perceived failure. But these identities are not you. They are masks your soul put on to navigate the play, but over time, the mask fused to the skin. Now, removing it feels like dying. And that is exactly the point. To awaken, one part of you must. Then there is time, that ever-flowing illusion that seems so absolute, and yet is so malleable. The mechanism depends on your belief in linear time to keep you trapped in cycles. Because time, as we know it, allows for the looping of stories, regret, anticipation, guilt, hope. All of it keeps your consciousness focused on a spectrum of past and future that rarely includes the now. But the now, this eternal, unblinking moment, is the one place where the mechanism begins to dissolve. It cannot survive pure presence, because presence is freedom. Time, like the rest of the mechanism, is a construct, a beautiful one, even necessary in its utility, but a construct nonetheless. And finally, there is the great hypnotist of all, fear. Fear is the linchpin, the master illusionist that keeps the gears turning. Fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of being alone, fear of unworthiness, fear of death. The mechanism uses fear not as punishment, but as programming. It trains you to avoid the thresholds where transformation waits. It teaches you to run from silence, from surrender, from the very portals that could set you free. Fear is not the enemy, it is the compass. Wherever fear intensifies, there lies a door. To escape this hidden mechanism is not to destroy. It cannot be destroyed, because it is a part of this dimension. It exists as a teacher, a contrast, a crucible, but it can be transcended. You can learn to walk beside it, to see through it, to disengage from its hooks while still moving through its world. And the first step is not to run, but to observe, to see it, not just as an abstract idea, but as a living force in your own life, in your patterns, in your relationships, in your quietest moments of despair and your brightest bursts of joy. It is always there, but so is your awareness. So is the watcher within you who cannot be named. This watcher, the soul, the witness, the eternal I, is the one thing the mechanism cannot touch. And every time you return to it, you chip away at the illusion of control. You shift the story. You become the anomaly, the glitch in the script, the question mark in a paragraph of exclamation points. You become something the mechanism cannot define. And in that space, you begin to write a new reality. Imagine a vast theater stretching endlessly into the horizon, not made of stone or timber, but of thoughts, emotions, and subconscious memory. The ceiling is stitched with constellations of past experiences, flickering like celestial echoes of everything you've once believed. In this great cosmic amphitheater, each soul plays a role, dons a costume, and recites lines written not by free will, but by invisible ink composed of childhood impressions, inherited wounds, societal imprints, and the ghost-like whisper of ancestral fears. The stage itself is sacred, and yet, most actors have forgotten that they are playing. They believe the script is reality itself. This theater, then, is the first symbol. Life as a grand, unconscious performance. But unlike the plays of mortal dramatists, this one has no audience. The watcher is you. The soul, the observer behind the mask, sits quietly in the front row, waiting for the actor to look up, to pause, and recognize that the script can be rewritten, the costume changed, the stage itself exited entirely. The mechanism, you begin to realize, is not a prison with locks and bars. It is a stage with curtains and lights. And you, the performer, are also the playwright. Now envision a great wheel, ancient and ornate, spinning slowly in the space between worlds. Upon it are inscribed symbols, some alchemical, some astrological, others completely alien to the conscious mind. This wheel does not tick with time, but with karma, intention, and resonance. It is the mechanism in motion. With every decision, every belief embraced or rejected, the wheel adjusts, slightly but surely. When unconscious patterns rule, the wheel spins predictably, looping lifetimes, situations, and emotional landscapes. But when awareness touches a moment, when you respond differently than your programming, the wheel stutters, then realigns. You begin to see the wheel not as fate, but as a mirror of your internal compass. There is another symbol that emerges like a whisper through fog, the labyrinth. The inner life is a maze whose walls are made of thought forms and emotional residues. Every turn seems new, and yet every path echoes the old. At the center lies the self, the pure, unfiltered awareness beyond identity. But most never reach it. They circle the outer rings endlessly, believing they're moving forward, when in truth they are spiraling around their own unresolved perceptions. The mechanism flourishes in this confusion. It paints the same wall in different colors and calls it progress. But those who stop running, who turn inward and feel the quiet magnetism pulling them deeper, eventually find the thread, Ariadne's thread of attention, of stillness, of sacred questioning. Follow that thread, and the labyrinth begins to unwind. Now let us consider the mirror. In countless traditions, the mirror is a portal, a metaphor, A divine irony. Everything outside reflects what lies within, and yet what is within is often veiled by the illusion of the external. The mechanism ensures this loop remains unbroken. The job you hate reflects the fear of unworthiness. The unfulfilling relationship echoes the belief in abandonment. The missed opportunity mirrors self-sabotage. To escape the mechanism, one must stop trying to change the mirror and instead change what stands before it. But this act requires courage, for to see clearly into the mirror is to confront not only wounds, but also the brilliant, terrifying potential that has long been hidden beneath them. And finally, the most potent of all symbols, the seed, the soul, beneath all distortion, is not damaged or asleep, is simply buried. Like a seed waiting in dry soil, it has held within it the code of awakening all along. The mechanism covers it with layers of doubt, fear, distraction, and repetition, but the seed endures. And when conditions are right, a moment of silence, an act of compassion, a piercing realization, the soil shifts, the shell cracks, and the first tendrils of awakening emerge. The seed does not shout, it does not seek fame or validation. It simply grows, steadily, silently, toward the light it has always remembered. All of these symbols, the stage, the wheel, the labyrinth, the mirror, the seed, are not separate stories. They are facets of the same hidden architecture, the same invisible mechanism that shapes your experience. But they are not chains, they are maps. And when approached with reverence, they reveal not only the design of the illusion, but the secret passageways that run beneath it. Symbols are how the soul communicates in a language older than words. They are not meant to be worshipped, but decoded. And once decoded, they become keys. You may now feel the subtle weight of recognition within, the sensation that none of this is entirely new, that somewhere deep inside, a part of you always knew that the mechanism existed, and that its hold was never absolute. This knowing is not intellectual, it is archetypal, cellular, cosmic. You were never meant to stay asleep. The symbols are waking you. It is one thing to glimpse the architecture of illusion in moments of reflection or mystic reverie, but quite another to live in a way that unravels the mechanism thread by thread. The shift from awareness to embodiment is the crucible in which true transformation occurs. Insight without action becomes decoration for the mind. Insight with integration becomes liberation for the soul. Let us return now to the stage, the theater of daily life. Most people wake not with intention, but by habit. The alarm sounds, and like marionettes, movements commence. The brushing of teeth, the checking of phones, the commutes, the interactions, each performed as if the lines have been rehearsed 1,000 times, and in many ways, they have. These routines are the grooves in which the mechanism runs, the default settings of consciousness. But awareness begins with interruption. To pause, even momentarily, is to insert a crack in the program. That moment of stillness in the morning, that silent glance before a habitual reaction, those are more than moments. They are revolts. They are rebellions of the soul against the tyranny of the unconscious. To escape the mechanism does not mean abandoning the world. It means seeing through it. It means walking through the same streets, interacting with the same people, yet no longer being possessed by the script. Your reactions become responses. Your speech gains resonance. Your actions align with a deeper clarity. Even in the most mundane tasks, an echo of sacredness can emerge, not because the task has changed, but because you have. The mechanism feeds on identification, on the assumption that your roles, thoughts, or emotions define you. But what happens when you simply witness a thought without clinging to it? What happens when anger rises and you do not become it, but observe it like a passing storm over the landscape of your awareness? You become the sky, not the weather. This is the foundation of liberation in action, not withdrawal from life, but presence within it so total that illusion cannot find a foothold. In relationships, too, the mechanism thrives. So many connections are forged from shared wounds, unconscious contracts, or silent manipulations. We replay childhood dynamics, trauma echoes, or societal expectations. But when you see another not as a role but as a mirror, not as a source of completion, but as a fellow traveler awakening through projection, the dynamic shifts. Conversations become rituals of revelation. Conflicts become opportunities for self-exploration. Even the silence between words becomes charged with meaning. Money, that great symbol of survival and self-worth, also bears the fingerprints of the mechanism. We are trained to chase it, fear its absence, and measure our value through it. But what if wealth was not the accumulation of resources, but the expression of energetic alignment? What if the flow of money responded not just to effort, but to the resonance of your inner world? Many who awaken begin to notice that the external flow shifts when the internal narrative does. When fear is released, creativity emerges. When scarcity dissolves, gratitude becomes the currency. And gratitude, paradoxically, invites abundance, not by force, but by magnetism. Technology, too, is a double-edged mirror. The mechanism uses it to distract, to numb, to hijack attention. But the awakened being uses it differently. You can choose your inputs. You can use screens to connect deeply, to learn, to share light instead of consume noise. The scroll can become sacred if your intention is sacred. Nothing is inherently mechanical, only your engagement with it defines its power over you. Perhaps most importantly, the mechanism loses strength in the presence of meaning. When you align your actions with a purpose that transcends the ego, the illusion trembles. You are no longer playing to survive, you are living to transmit. Every human carries a unique frequency, a pattern they alone can embody and radiate. That pattern is your soul's medicine to the world. It may be expressed through art, kindness, invention, healing, or simply presence, but it is yours. And only in its expression can you truly exit the gears of the great hypnotic wheel. Practical integration, then, is not a list of tasks. It is a shifting gaze, a remembering. It is walking through the illusion with eyes open, touching the moment as though it was sacred, because it is. It is knowing that the cashier at the store may be a sleeping star, and your smile might be the whisper that wakes them. It is understanding that even pain can become the soil in which deeper beauty takes root. To integrate these truths is not to become perfect. It is to become available for presence, for grace, for the subtle guidance of the soul. And the more you listen, the more you act from that deep listening, the more the hidden mechanism begins to falter. You feel it in your bones. You feel it in the silence between your thoughts. A kind of lightness returns, remembering that life is not meant to be survived. It is meant to be lived, fully, radiantly, awake. And so, here we are at the threshold between knowing and becoming. You have seen glimpses of the mechanism, like the gears of a vast unseen machine grinding behind the veil of your daily life. You have heard the subtle clicking of its cycles, felt the pull of its patterns in your habits, thoughts, and dreams. And yet, there is something more enduring than any mechanism, something that has watched patiently from behind your eyes, whispering softly every time you paused to wonder, is this all there is? That whisper is not a fantasy. It is your truth trying to surface. This truth is older than your name, your story, your body. It is not concerned with your status, your social masks, or the validation of the world. It is what existed before all programming and will remain after all illusions have burned away. It is the signal beyond the static, the divine seed that cannot be owned, broken, or defined, and it has waited, through lifetimes of distraction, for you to wake up not in panic, but in power, not as a reaction to suffering, but as a return to sovereignty. What you call reality is a language written in symbols and frequency. It adapts to your beliefs, mirrors your emotions, and responds not to what you wish for, but to who you are being. The hidden mechanism is not evil, it is amoral, reflective, neutral. Like a mirror, it offers you back your own essence. If you look into it with fear, it will project shadows. If you gaze with love, it will echo beauty. But most people never look into it long enough to see anything but fog. To escape it is not to destroy the mirror. It is to become the one who sees beyond the reflection. You begin by honoring silence. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes sacred. Through silence, you learn to listen not with your ears, but with your soul. You hear the pulse of your own being, the guidance that does not shout but waits. Then you learn to act from that place, not from compulsion, fear, or performance, but from a stillness that knows. Each step taken from this place is a crack in the mechanism, a song of your re-emergence from the sleep of consensus. Awakening is not a one-time event. It is a spiral, an unfolding. You will forget and remember, fall and rise. But once seen, the mechanism cannot unshow itself. Once heard, the call cannot be unheard. You may resist, deny, delay, but you will never again belong to the lie. You are now a frequency of remembering in a world of forgetting, and that is no small thing. That is how worlds shift. One awakened soul, living fully, becomes a lighthouse in a fog-drenched sea. This is your invitation, not from me, but from life itself. You are not here to be controlled. You are not here to perform obedience for invisible systems. You are not here to endlessly rehearse someone else's dream. You are here to create, to love, to radiate truth so brightly that even the deepest machinery cannot contain you. And if you falter, remember this: the mechanism has no answer for one who knows they are more than the script. It can only loop what you believe. So believe in your freedom. Believe in your light. Believe that this reality, however intricate, is not your prison. It is your proving ground, your canvas, your awakening. Step forward now, not with fear, but with remembrance, not with escape, but with embodiment. And know that every breath taken in awareness, every word spoken in truth, every choice made in alignment, is the sound of the mechanism breaking. And beyond that breaking, beyond the ashes of the illusion is you, the real you, the one who was never lost, the one who was just awakened.